forward and do the formal introduction. So thank you, Charlie.
Good morning. Wow, what a big 9 o'clock service. This is great. Thanks for coming. And it's my honor on behalf of the Search Committee and the Board of Trustees to do the introduction this morning. As you know, you've heard us say this before, but we had 18 candidates. We had quite a process to evaluate each one, and many interviews and listening to CDs and watching DVDs, and so we had quite a process, and so here we are. You know, we have our final 2 candidates, and so I wanted to do the formal introduction and I wanted to thank you for the support throughout this process, and knowing that we are on a journey to pick the right and perfect minister for this center. So it's my pleasure to introduce Reverend Dr. Coco Stewart, but I wanted to let you know that she's been a minister for 16 years. She's a minister at Agape International Spiritual Center. She's ordained. She has a doctorate of divinity. Her current ministry is a pastoral care ministry, which, believe it or not, that alone has 150 SAVA volunteers, which I'm going, wow. So on a personal reflection going through this, what struck me about Reverend Coco is knowing that she takes everything really seriously and really to the heart. And she wants to know and feel at that gut level what it is. And so about this process in terms of this opportunity for candidating, we didn't know this, but she drove up here and visited our center, walked the grounds, walked through in a very stealth way. Nobody knew who she is. But she shared in an interview that she went to our gardens in the back behind the meditation pavilion, sat on a bench and meditated to get the feel of the place, and she felt love. And so that really struck me at a very heart level. And I also know she has a passion for each individual to know their own divinity and to manifest that into the world. So with that said, it's my pleasure to introduce Reverend Dr. Coco Stewart.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. It's so good to see you all this morning. You know, it was interesting that the first thing that Charlie said is that this is something about good attendance, because I was sitting here thinking, this looks like a good turnout for a 9 o'clock service. So it was interesting to have that validated. Well, it's a great honor and certainly a great pleasure to be here to see each and every one of you. I'm grateful for this opportunity to allow the living word to come forth in a way, shape, and form that my intention is that for you, allows it to make a compelling difference in your everyday life. For me, this magnificent teaching that we are a part of has to be practical and pragmatic. It has to work in my world and in my life, and it has to make a difference. I believe in that. That's one thing I am very passionate and feel very strongly about. So the topic this morning is Stairway to Heaven, which, of course, came through meditation. I was entertained, too, and no, it has nothing to do with the song, okay? So it is about being established in an awareness, as many of you may know, that what we call the heavenly estate of divine consciousness is always at home within our own soul. And that heavenly estate of the infinite, that we can always, always, always have direct and conscious contact with that state of being within us. The first thing you may ask is, what is heaven? I mean, in some way, our human mind does talk about that to us. And obviously, what we know is what I just said, and that is that it is within us. It's not a faraway place. It's not somewhere we get to after we die. that over and over and over again, I believe, we have the opportunity to live heaven on earth in this moment, in this here, and in this now. I'm very aware, because I do pastoral care, that it doesn't always seem that way, and that it doesn't always feel that way, and it doesn't seem as though that's the experience that we're having in that moment. So that becomes a wonderful way to have entry into this self-reflective question of, what am I really tuned into here? If I know with my intellect, with my mind, that heaven is always available to me, the heavenly estate of the infinite is always available. You know, some people ask the question this way, well, what the heck is going on here then, you know? What is there that's happening in this circumstance that doesn't make it seem so, feel so, appear so? And the answer to that is always the place that we're coming from. It's always the place where we're coming into something from our state of consciousness, our state of awareness. So therefore, the stairway to heaven are those steps that we can take all along the way to reveal the kingdom of heaven on earth. And a lot of times, the other thing I notice with people is that they like to make up sort of a grandiose idea of what heaven is, which is good. There's nothing wrong with that. But my encouragement is always to be with the heaven that's with you in the moment. What's heaven for me in the moment? And I know that if everybody takes a moment and reflects, to some degree, we've all had that experience in this world, in this lifetime, to some degree. We know that it's just a small taste of what could be available to us. But one of the things that I'm going to share with you is my husband and I ride our bikes because I injured my foot. And I used to be a runner and then a walker. And here's another interesting thing that happened is that I had injured my foot, and if I were to tell on myself, I would say I had like injured it in about 5 different ways. But I was still intent on doing what I wanted to do. Does that maybe sound familiar to anybody? You know, hopefully I'm not the only one. I really know I'm not. So what was interesting is along about the time that I was really kind of hobbling around, I finally decided perhaps I ought to go to the doctor. So I did that, and so we had the conversation, and it was basically not a big deal. And she said to me, but you can bicycle. And I tell you, that was on a Thursday, and on that Saturday, thanks to the fact that my husband always kept my bike tuned up, we met on a Sierra Club bike ride. So you see, when she said, but you can bike, that was kind of like all I really needed to hear. So we got on the bikes, and we went down the bike path. And all of these wonderful memories came flooding back to me, which were about how much I love to do this. And you know, I had put myself in another position. Do you understand? I had done all this walking and hiking, which I love to do. But here was the way the universe compelled me now to move into a different direction. And the bike ride itself was wonderful because where we were riding along a bike path, which was down by us, Bayona Creek. And one side was a lot of beautiful water with a lot of shorebirds. My husband loves shorebirds, and he was telling me which birds. And then as you went down more, then we'd get down closer to the beach, and you'd have the creek on one side. See, I'm describing to you what was heaven to me. So we had the creek on one side. We had the water coming in, so we had the bay on the other, the marina on this side, with all the beautiful sailboats. And then the icing on the cake was all of the, who knew? I didn't know. There were all these daisy bushes that were in bloom. Daisies used to be my favorite flower. Huge, lined the whole bike path. And we're riding along, and then I get to ride with my beloved husband, and that's how we met. You know, I mean, all those years ago. And all I could feel was a profound sense of joy. And wasn't that interesting that the universe created this opportunity for me to now have another experience of joy and another experience of heaven for those precious sacred moments that we spent time on our bicycles. So I'm just saying for all of us, there's ways, you know, when we are with our beloved, when we know love, for many of us, that's a sense of heaven. Yes? Yes. Yes. Thank you. There's many ways that we know this in our life and in our world. And when we are working towards having a deeper experience and expression, frequently, if you're going to do it as a stairway, when you are on one stair step, frequently you can't see where you're going, correct? Because you don't always get the opportunity to see what is the next step. The stairway also, in my mind, is, I'm going to shift gears a little bit now and go into a more mystical or metaphysical expression, but the stairway to heaven, the eternal stairway to heaven, in my mind, is made of the light of the infinite, the divine design of life. It is something that is not goes straight up, but is an ever-ascending spiral of radiance and brilliance. I know that's how the universe is unfolding out of itself. And of course, what's true in the large picture is true in the small picture. So that's true for all of us. That there's an ever-ascending spiral, a brilliant light that is seeking to express itself in your soul. Part of the reason why I chose the reading is that it spoke about that we live in a spiritual universe and that more of it is seeking emergence. What I know is that as we are the ones that are on this path and are awake to some degree, or you wouldn't be here, that there's a part of you that knows that spiritual emergence, and it's seeking to come through you by divine design. It's seeking to come through you as a function of this community, but it's also seeking to come through you with every step that you take in your day-to-day walk. That's the one thing for you to know, that nothing is left out of this ascending spiral. What do I mean by that? I mean that when you go to buy coffee or buy gas or go to the dry cleaner or buy your groceries, you know, in LA we always like to talk about driving on the freeway, okay? Anyway, wherever you are and whatever small step you take in your day-to-day round, you have the choice to actively bring heaven to earth. You do. And it is how we treat ourselves with loving kindness and respect, and it's how we treat others. For me, that's the divine having dominion over our attention and letting it work through us. We like to know that as we go through our day-to-day life, that energy is always unfolding in a wondrous and awesome way. And that when you tune into it, through your willingness, through your availability, through the ways that we talk about using the spiritual tools, which are meditation, a mindfulness practice, spiritual mind treatment, all of those ways that we give ourselves over to the infinite. You could say spiritual study, like they have the classes here. Spiritual study is a great way to get in tune with a bigger idea of your life and what God is seeking to express as you. Because I can guarantee you that all of you have something that is essential to be brought to the planet at this time for the emergence of a spiritual universe that is not airy-fairy and it's not far off. It's in your day-to-day walk. The other thing is that when we bring it into our day-to-day walk, the beautiful thing about exercising that spiritual muscle over and over again of saying, I know that there's more than what's appearing in my world. You know, again, we go, you know, LA. We talk about when folks cut us off on the freeway. All right, so maybe that never happens in Redding. I don't know, but I bet it does. But as you do that day by day, moment, I'm going to say by grace-filled moment, which means to me that we put ourselves in the way of letting grace use us. We put ourselves in a position by our spiritual practice to let our spiritual selves have more play into our world and into our life. My daughter is studying to be a doctor of veterinary medicine. She's still in somewhat the beginning stages of doing that. But when she first decided that this was something she was interested in, and she's definitely a perfect candidate for that, because I'm telling you, at my house, I've had so many animals that I never, thought I would have. How's that? Anyway, it's always interesting. And So this is, and it's because of her, that's what I'm saying, because she was the one that was interested. And I still remember the one time when she was a smaller child where, thank God I don't remember all the animals that were there. There were several. I mean, I can't even tell you. And she, you know, with our children, I know I'm always interested in a spiritual perspective and a spiritual truth. There was this look that came over her one time. She was sitting with the animals in the dining room or somewhere, and she just looked, something about it, I could see she had met her purpose. Have you seen that with people when they meet their purpose? And she just said, this is more like it. This is what life is supposed to be about. So when she started on this journey, to get back to my story, she was investigating, and she decided to, of course, she'd been to university, but to do this, she was going to begin with, she found a wonderful college out by us that offers a lot of programs to start on your veterinary degree. And she couldn't quite figure out exactly how she was going to pay for it. So she signed herself up, she did everything. And here's the other thing is that when you are answering the call to be available to a greater vision, it takes you way beyond your comfort zone. Because I got to see this, that a lot of things that weren't her first choice were necessary for her to do this. But when she had in mind what she was going to get to express or fulfill, it was interesting. All those things, she just did them. Driving on the freeway, being at class at 8 o'clock at a school. She did it for the whole summer. This was a wonderful demonstration. 8 o'clock, 4 days a week at a school that's about 40 miles away, so it wasn't convenient and it wasn't easy. But she was thrilled to finally be what she knew on her path. The demonstration I wanted to speak with you about is, as you know, demonstration is the fulfillment of a divine intention. She didn't quite know how she was going to pay for it, so she signed up. She knows this work because I was pregnant with her, the whole science of mind too, and so she heard it all in the womb, because that's back when it was like, it was not quite a year, but it was almost a year. And so she's been raised with this teaching. So she, you know, I mean, we had a lot of conversations, and she did the work about preparing herself in her own way. Like she reminded me, she said she had to take math first. Okay, so you get, that's not her favorite topic, right? She was actually getting an A. She was dedicated. She was showing up. So she decided to put it out to the universe, and you know, nowadays the way you do that is you put it on Facebook. So the universe of Facebook, the Facebook universe. So she put it on Facebook, and I think I did it too because I have a large group of people, and she just was looking for anybody who wanted to donate, and it wasn't much because per unit it's not expensive, and she figured if she got some funds that would be great. And she probably also thought in the back of her mind, like many of us do, oh, and that will confirm that what I'm doing is like the right thing to do, right? We put something out and we think, let's see how the universe responds, which is actually not the way to approach it, but that's okay. Anyway, so she put it out, and so she went back and checked, and you know, lo and behold, nobody had responded. You know, none of my friends, none of her friends. Everybody is like, good for you. But I don't have $10 or whatever, I don't know what. You know, it just was that. So she was working this out in her mind, and actually I know what it was, and that is somehow she could sign up for summer. She didn't quite have to pay, so she was trying to pay for summer. But in order to get into fall, well, now she had to pay, okay. And so she went to just investigate again to see how much was this. And she had done everything to apply for funds. Some of you who are students, know students, have been a student, know that there's a lot of forms you fill out to get funding. So she had done all of that, but she had got nothing back from anybody. For her, that was like no response, so okay, universe isn't responding that way. So she went back to check to just see, well, how much money do I need to get together? She probably thought she was going to ask me. Oh, anyway, so she checked that, and she found out that all of the fees for her classes had been waived. Every single fee was waived. And to this day, as she reminded me, we still don't actually know why. We still don't know what exactly transpired in her filling out the paperwork that made it so. But it was a wonderful demonstration, and it was a wonderful affirmation and confirmation for her to go forward. So that was a good thing. And then apparently about a week later, she was checking her email, and she got an email back that said, by the way, you have money in an account for your schooling. Do you want it? It was in excess of a couple $1,000s. So she had the money to get the books, to pay for the gas, which, as we all know, is something to consider nowadays, and to do what she needed to do to go forward in her schooling. For me, that's a wonderful example of I get something that is my part in the universe to fulfill. I don't exactly know how this is going to manifest or demonstrate. I am willing to show up for myself. I'm willing to make a commitment, which is a big deal, to commit to take that first step forward. We know that as we put one step forward, the universe rushes to meet us, and that there is a fulfillment beyond our wildest dreams, which is exactly what happened with her. I actually have lots of wonderful stories like that. In fact, I just had a client this week who was working with not this, but something else. Something happened with her husband of many years, just passed away. She didn't quite know how this was going to work out. And, of course, we did our prayer work together. And, of course, there's been the demonstration. It's already happened. It's already taken care of. So there's many ways that the universe is seeking for us to be in touch with the good that is ever available to us. We know that the divine demonstration of the heart of the infinite is what the universe is calling us to step up to. So our part, those steps that create that staircase, that's what I described to you. That's the meditation, that's the treatment work, and that's continuing to allow your spiritual study to unfold. Keep in mind that the way the universe responds to you is even not so much about what you say. I'm going to say this. It's sort of, the universe reads us sort of like, it reads a barcode. I was just checking barcodes on some shoes I bought, I'll confess. And I realized that that's how the universe reads us. Do you see what I'm saying? It does it holographically, of course. And that is, it says, that's the energy that person feels. I'm going to give them a vibrational match. Universe presents a vibrational match to us for whatever we are putting out. So that's one reason why you have to be clear and strong in your intention, that you are at one in the life of God, in the heart of God, that for each of us, that we live in a friendly universe, that the universe always wants to work on our behalf, and it always wants to demonstrate the fullness of its being in a magnificent way. We're going to say that glorifies God, but I don't want to scare anybody, because what that always means is it glorifies God, it glorifies our good in ways, shapes, and forms we can't imagine. And when my husband and I go on a bike ride, much like the universe reads the barcode of our soul, so to speak, we always take a reading. We always check. We're getting ready to go, putting on our helmets, all that. And we always check because we want to know what the conditions are for the ride. We check the wind, we check the UV index, we check the direction of the wind, because preferably we'd like to have it at our backs coming and going. That's happened a couple times. And it's not, and we check visibility because we have to work with different things down by the beach. So the deal is, you check it, but not as a way to stop you. That's not it. And I'm trying to give you this instruction as a way to meet yourself with love. So you check in with yourself in a very authentic way. So how is it that I actually feel about this? Like if somebody's working with a sense of lack, limitation, well, and separation, those are always the things. But if it's about a feeling of a lack of connection with other beings or a sense of financial lack, it's okay to notice it as long as we don't wallow about in it. And then you have the opportunity to say to yourself, I can work with this. See, I always think it's very exciting when somebody really gets feedback of where they actually are in comparison to where they think they should be, where they think they could be, where their neighbors tell them they should be, where their best friend says they should be. And always in this community, what I, excuse me, what I always am aware of is it can look as though everybody's having a joyous, fantastic time. And so sometimes we compare, which is deadly, and say, well, you know, everybody else looks like they're having a fabulous life. Why is my life a bit on the challenge? Why am I having this particular challenge? So it's not about comparing. That's why owning where you actually are, taking that reading on where am I for real, that, see, is exciting, because then you have something you can pray about. Now that means you're going to actually have a for real demonstration of love and life and joy and truth. We learn to ask ourselves more skillful questions, and it becomes second nature. So in other words, because I've worked with a lot of folks, and so while they may be mouthing a truth of, say, abundance, love, creative opportunities, and health, they really, each of us needs to get in touch with, but what's below that? What's in my heart? Because that's the thing to be addressed. Because the universe reads the fire of what you've got going on. Do you understand this? Because if you say one thing, but if deep inside you there's somewhere else you feel about it, that's not being addressed, and the universe just either gives you a mixed message or continues to demonstrate what the feeling tone is. So it's essential in this practice to allow ourselves to, with every step we take, to own where we really are in consciousness, to allow ourselves to do the spiritual work, to ascend in consciousness in a loving, grace-filled, kind way. And the other thing, I think I probably need to be moving along at this point, I'm not really sure. But anyway, the other thing to be aware of is, and then there is a point on the stairway to heaven, because many of us may think about the stairway that, you know, we're individual beings, that I need to ascend to get to the heavenly estate within myself. The other opportunity, of course, what I know about the stairway to heaven for sure, is that even if I have a sense of the stairway to heaven, I can't get there without you. And there is no heaven without all of us being there. That's what I know. That's why this community, which puts seva, what we call sacred service, to glorify God, as a primary component of spiritual practice, that is absolutely essential to do that. What we get to do from that perspective is assist in building a stairway so that others may come after us, that others may climb the steps that we carve in stone, and I mean by that sometimes our outdated consciousness of old knowing. So now we know it's a new day, and it's a new way, and it's a new life. And that is very clear to all of us, that going forward, the world can't keep going the way it's been. That must mean a wonderful thing. That must mean there's a new stairway being carved, and we can be the ones that carve it, not just for ourselves, but for all the beings who come after us. So are you willing to do that? Yes. I'm glad. Because otherwise we'd have to have another talk. Okay. Anyway, I just have one quote, and then I'm going to go into the prayer because I love this quote. It's again from our blessed mystic, Dr. Howard Thurman, in his book, Disciplines of the Spirit. Now, see, he's quoting actually from The Hunter by Olive Schreiber. And I love this quote. And this hunter, if you Google it and read it, this hunter has spent many years laboring for the truth. He saw the bird of truth. He saw it as a glimpse. Actually, I think he saw it as a reflection in a pool. But he knew that that's what was real, and he spent his entire life. It's a beautiful allegory to read. It's a beautiful story. And this is at the end of his life. So the her that he is referring to is truth. We could call it the God within our own souls. He says, I have sought. For long years I have labored, but I have not found her. I have not rested. I have not repined. I have not seen her. And now my strength is gone. Where I lie down, worn out, others will stand, young and fresh. By the steps I have cut, they will climb. By the stairs I have built, they will mount. They will never know the name of the one who made them. And at the clumsy work, they may laugh. And when the stones roll, they may curse me. But they will mount, and on my work they will climb, and by my stair they will find the one the truth, the divine itself. So with that, I just invite you to turn within with me for a moment of prayer. Thank you so much. So how grateful I am to take a moment that is, again, a God-ordained moment, to continue to be a light with the radiant brilliance of a perfect, dynamic truth of God.